think what we've noticed is a lot of times when you're looking for a solution, you're coming to the table with a problem and you want to fix the problem, but you also need to consider, does this new solution do all the things that my current solution did? And so bringing in a trusted partner like Equals 11 is so key there. For us, so we're still using the MPSP package. We're actually fairly new to that package, and so that's why we haven't really even considered the nonprofit cloud transition, because actually within the last 2 years we moved on to NPSP. We're a little bit behind the curve there, but as a larger nonprofit, and again, I think you have to decide this for your organization. Do we want to be on the bleeding edge of technology? Do we want to be on the cutting edge? Do we want to kind of be with mainstream? So we move a little bit slower, and that's on purpose. But we're fairly new to NPSP. And I think what we noticed, I kind of came on board with the Kidney Foundation in the middle of that implementation project as we moved from an old NGO Connect platform to a totally new instance, totally new environment with NPSP. And just some of these challenges that we faced, and I think some of the things that are important to address at each stage of the game. So both like in the planning, but as early as discovery, as early, before you even decide we want to make this move, you need to be thinking about some key things. I think a few of those top line items are data hygiene, change management, and how you're going to measure success. Especially with an org to org move, that data hygiene, you making sure that all of your fields are mapped over, you making sure that you're not losing data, making sure that you're not just piping in duplicative data is so key. So it is worth just putting in the work and getting in the spreadsheets and really digging in and understanding and being willing to, as you do that, recognize okay, we have these 25 fields that we don't need, we don't use, nobody, they were created 10 years ago, and dealing with that technical debt. And obviously if you deal with that on a more regular basis, it'll be a lot cleaner transition. I want to really highlight number 2 there, change management. I think this is absolutely, whether your project is big or small, this is the most important piece of any implementation project, because you've got to get buy-in. Giving somebody a shiny new toy is great. If they don't know how to use it, you may as well not have given it to them. So both helping people understand how to use the system, but also understanding why to use the system, demonstrating value to your users is so key. We talk a lot about we're not here to tell you what to do. We're here to make your life easier as a Salesforce admin, at least. And so we're not there to fit square pegs into our little round hole of how to use Salesforce. We're here to help you do your job better. We want a system that supports our users. And so having that listening ear and being keeping a pulse on your organization, on your users. And we found one of the best ways to do that is kind of keep just focus groups of users that you can just keep a pulse on the organization, right? Understand hey, what are the pain points these days? What are you hearing from your fellow users? What are people complaining about? And a lot of times it's something that's so simple that we don't even think to fix it until we find out it's an issue, and then you put it together. And I think that feeds right into measuring success. I think you've got to be able to know when something's done, to have a clear definition of done, but also to be able to see whether or not a solution is working. And if it's not working, then we don't just want to keep sinking effort into it necessarily, right? Knowing when to pull the plug. So, but I think measuring success happens in a couple of ways, and I think one is with analytics, one's with metrics, right? You want to be able to see okay, what do I want? So for us, NPSP, it's we want higher usage. So we're actually tracking okay, who's logging in, who's not logging in, not in a gotcha way, but in a understanding who's having difficulty using the system. The same thing was true, right, when we transitioned from Salesforce Classic to Salesforce Lite, right? And those tools were there to okay, who's switching back to Classic and why? And not so we can say don't do that, but so that we can say, hey, how do we build this system better to where you don't need to do that? But then I think this also happens anecdotally. I think you get some of those narrative wins, right? Understand from users, those comments they make about oh, I can't believe this button's right where I need it, right? Or, but I used to have this, where is it? And then helping them understand how to do that. So lots of challenges there, but all those challenges are really opportunities for success.
Quick question, Jacob. Will you say that the change management, or kind of like explaining the why, it's the most complex one, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think it's the most complex one because everybody's got different agendas, right? Like everybody's why is different. And so you've got to be able to understand like what people are about and what people are passionate about and what means. So like we regularly, right? Like you demo this cool new tool that you built, and it's like, well,
Yeah.
I would never use that. It's like, well, great, thanks, but like, well, tell me why and help me understand like what would you use, like what could we tweak that would make this more useful. So yeah, absolutely.
Okay, no, that's great, and this goes against to like it's the feedback is key, and of course, if everybody's aligned, but they don't provide feedback, it's the same as if you were not aligned, because at the end, feedback is critical, and the feedback we usually get it through the measuring or like somehow, because that's the only way to improve. So I just want to round that up, that idea, because everybody needs to understand that. If you say yes and then no feedback, it's like nothing. So, yep, thank you. I'll continue to the next one
Ken and
from
Jacob,
Bibi,
let me just
please.
add to the change management point. I think that this is key, as Jacob said. So I just wanted to mention that it is super important that we have like a solid business analysis work. Uh, that I mean to understand workflows, and I mean to understand overall what are the business pain points, and focusing on the fact that in many of the cases, and I bring that from previous experiences, business users, they work with, I mean, different number of tools, and whenever we can understand their workflows and understand their pain points, one of the appealing messages for adopting the new tool would be to say, okay, I mean, Salesforce in this case, or I mean, any other tool that you are adopting, this could be your single source of the truth, in a way that you are going to avoid all that swivel chair. So again, from past experiences, guys, I say that the avoiding this swivel chair thing, this is very appealing for promoting user adoption. So just wanted to add to that. This may be preaching to the core somehow, but I think that this ties back to a strong business analysis work, and the fact that Salesforce in this case could be a single source of the truth, and that could be messaged to the users as something to avoid working on multiple tools.